Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello and welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. I need to get like a little number pad or something so I can make these transitions a little bit more smoothly, so I'm not like looking over at my OBS to make sure I'm clicking the right screen, because if I don't click the right screen, it could be a little bit embarrassing what might show up on your screen. So just yeah, not that anyone needed to know. Anyway, hello, welcome, thank you. We have Teddy Cool, Looney Tunes 9000, Soul Life, and Lynn have popped into the sandbox already. What do you guys think of that for a name for the chat? Calling it the sandbox. Because, you know, my name is Sandy, and this is Left of the Box. So the sandbox, oh, I guess it's on this side for YouTube, is where everyone could be hanging out. What do you guys think of that? Nickname it the sandbox? I don't know. I don't know if it will stick or not. Lynn, just wait until the end, and if your cat Xerophil was confused by the one tulip cry when I do the sign off and I have all of them, your cat will go nuts. There was something about tulips meowing that really, I don't know, like one of my cats, whenever I play it, he goes berserk. Like it is like he will try to dig into the speakers to find out where that cry is coming from. Yeah. Oh, Felicia Fee 808. Hello and welcome. So, Looney Tunes, I just saw you over at the Surfs and you had a question, and I thought, you know what, I might as well answer it. You were wondering if I identified as non-binary in college because I put in the Surfs chat that, you know, back in high school, I didn't identify as non-binary because I didn't know it was a thing. And if I'm going to talk about it, I might as well put that up there. Okay. Yeah, because they're talking about how there's been this massive increase in people who identify as trans and non-binary. And part of that is they showed like the left-handedness chart. Like once it becomes accepted, it's not that people weren't, it's just that they're coming out more and feeling more comfortable being themselves. But with me, it was even a little bit different than that, as in I didn't know non-binary was a thing. Like I didn't know it was an option for the longest time, even though I remember back in high school, like questioning my femininity, wondering like, is this what it means to be a woman and all that sort of stuff? And I would say out loud so many times, so many things, like talking about my masculine side and how it's a part of me and how I sometimes felt more masculine than feminine, but you know, it's not an either or thing, it's a both. And, you know, it sometimes like I can't say one is necessarily stronger than the other either. And I was saying this out loud for all of my life. And just some of my behaviors and attitude, it really kind of went there. But, you know, as I got older, and I started hanging out with more queer crowds as I found them and stuff, I did come across some people who identified as non-binary, but it still didn't resonate with me because they were nothing like me. It didn't clue into me. It actually wasn't until I got onto Twitter and I started seeing all these different people identifying in different ways, and some people I could understand better, some people I resonated with, and that sort of thing. Like I could see more of myself in some of these people. And so then it was just a matter of me just taking a moment to think about it. If I take how I present out of the equation and just focus on how I felt, what would I be? And then it's like, that makes sense. I'm non-binary. But I always assumed since I was assigned female at birth and I present female, therefore I must be female. When actually that's not the case. And had I known non-binary was an option back when I was in high school, who knows what would have happened? Who knows how I would have even been presenting now? Like maybe I wouldn't be presenting as female as I do. It's hard to say because there's a lot of social pressures, of course, back then to, fit in and beauty standards and all that sort of stuff and what you need to do in order to attract a boy and on and on and on. So that's why I'm so happy when I like go to queer pride festivals and stuff and I see little kids with NB flags and and stuff and they know who they are at that age and I just warms my heart that they're going to have that part of themselves, when I never had that chance. And that's one of the things I keep on fighting for to make sure that the little kids of today can really understand and express who they are all of their life, as opposed to having to realize it way late in their life and then, connect the dots and be like, well, that makes a lot of sense and answers a lot of questions and, uh, it makes sense of some situations and stuff that I've been in. Anyway, Looney Tunes, I'm glad you like the sandbox. Yeah, maybe we'll just keep on calling chat sandbox and see how that catches on. Okay. Now, I'm probably not expecting too many people in watching today because, it is still Christmas break, more or less. And I appreciate everyone who tuned in on Christmas Day, where I had a stream and I was tired. I was so tired. I had some plumbing issues in my apartment that was keeping me up because I was so stressed. And then I had to travel to go see family, and the family visit was fairly pleasant, so I can't complain too much there. And today the plumbing issues have been fixed. I also had to take 2 of my cats into the vet, and all 3 of my cats are doing all right. So Abernathy and Lanier had come down with some sort of virus, some sort of cold, and I had to take Abernathy in first, even though he caught the virus second, because his eye got all red and swollen and bad and he was sneezing like crazy. So they gave him some antibiotics and stuff, and his eye has all cleared up and he's looking normal now for the past few days. Lanier just seemed to have gotten past the virus on his own, but I still wanted to take him in just to make sure it was completely out of his lungs. And the vet confirmed that it is out of his lungs, but his nose is still a bit runny and stuff, and so I need to keep an eye on it. He might have allergies apparently, because he's a little orange cat, and I've noticed ever since I got him, he has a little like black buildup around his nostrils. And I just figured that's normal for him, but it could be because of allergies. Go figure. Didn't know that. I hope he's not allergic to me. Ugh, that wouldn't be good. But he's okay, and Frodo has still been eating regularly for the past week and a bit, and I just and so I had him into the vet today too, because I had booked the appointment ahead of time assuming that Frodo would have stopped eating and I would have needed like emergency treatment. But he was eating, and they still gave him some fluids because he's still very dehydrated, and I got some extra food and stuff. So I go to a not-for-profit vet. I qualify for that. And it's just Frodo's vet bills are so high because it was an emergency when I had to take him in. And when it's an emergency, the unfortunate thing about the not-for-profit vet is like a same-day appointment. It doesn't happen. They're so overwhelmed. And so I had no choice. I had to take Frodo into another vet in order to get him seen right away because it was an emergency at that point. And at the not-for-profit vet, they looked him over and they were able to answer some of my questions a lot, I hate to say it, better than the other place. Even though the other place, great service, fantastic, friendly people, but, the not-for-profit vet was telling me that, I was concerned between the 2 x-rays Frodo's had in the past 4 or 5 months. it shows that there was a little bit of a bunching in his intestine, and that could be because of a linear blockage. And she's like, nah, it's because his intestine was empty because he hadn't been eaten, and so it tends to scrunch up a bit. It's like, oh, okay. And just some other things that she went over, some of the results with me and stuff. So, he does have stage 1 kidney disease, and that's part of the reason why he probably would stop eating, is that his kidneys can just get overworked, and then he loses all of his appetite and becomes very nauseous, and eventually that can just lead to other issues. So he can be on like an anti-nausea medicine for a while, and there's this new cat food that he likes, but I can't keep him on the one that he really likes because it's called Recovery, and it's very high in protein. And like, these are some of the things that I've learned. So I have to give him food with low protein, and then chances are he won't get as sick because the protein really works out the kidneys and puts stress on him. So there is cat food specifically for cats with kidney issues. And so hopefully switching his food to that, just giving him an appetite stimulant and stuff, that he just pulls out of a lot of this on his own. There are other issues, like his spleen shows signs of possible cancer and stuff. But, at this point, if he were to get an ultrasound or an x-ray to confirm he has cancer or some other kind of condition, the reality is there's no cure for them anyway. Like, there's no way that it would be solved. So right now it's just maintaining his symptoms and keeping him comfortable and seeing how long he goes. But, now that he's been eating and stuff, he's more energetic. He's been playing with Lanier, which is just so cute because he's still, even though Lanier has grown a lot since I got him, Frodo is still so much bigger than him. So it's kind of funny watching them play fight and stuff. Okay, so got a couple more people out and in the sandbox. The chat sandbox. Yeah, makes sense. And yeah, so I had a stream on Christmas Day that I didn't really talk much in the way of politics, just went over some fun stuff. It was just a way of, helping out people who are maybe a bit lonely on Christmas Day. And today I'm actually going to go over some Christmas stuff. Just, some posts and stuff that I saw. Well, we'll get into it. Also going to talk a bit about Gaza, what's been happening there. Going to talk about the Supreme Court of Canada, because we do have one, and I don't think too many people actually know anything about it. And the reason why it's kind of in the forefront of my mind is there was that recent ruling in the Ontario Supreme Court that the slap suit was slapped down for this one guy who is targeting a drag show, calling them groomers and stuff, which led to harassment, because in Canada, we don't have free speech. We have freedom of expression, but we also have hate speech laws. And like, it still has to go to the Supreme Court of Canada, but there's a good chance that the people this guy was targeting can sue him for over $100,000. And I hope they win, because he was calling them groomer and stuff like that. And that is hate speech, and it targets people, and it's not in the public interest type thing. So we're going to go over that a bit so that people learn a little bit more about the Supreme Court of Canada, or the Canadian Supreme Court, which I think it's Supreme Court of Canada. Okay, let's check the sandbox. Lynn, the local 24-hour vet office, the reviews are all over the place. It really depends on of the many doctors you happen to get. Yeah. Possibly the same one you were dealing with. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. The main vet that I've seen before wasn't there. So somebody else looked after Frodo for the initial visits. But, the staff there and everything, always really friendly. But you get a different type of service when you go to a not-for-profit vet, because they're a lot more direct and they're not the ones that would be like, well, maybe it's this and we can rule that out. And they're like, no, it's not. It's probably like you don't have to worry about it. They just can't rule it out, but it's not, that sort of thing. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to say your name right. Mono, no, nope, Monope? Are those rainbow slinkies in the background? Yes, they are. I collect slinkies. I even wear one on my finger all the time. Well, not all the time, but when I'm out and about, because I fidget a lot and I can do this fun little trick. But I wear it on my finger all the time, ever since I was a teenager, actually. It's a slinky that's an inch by an inch. And I found places where I can order them, so I have a whole bunch. But yeah, rainbow slinkies in the background because I do have over 300 slinkies. Lynn, oh heck yes, drink performers don't make enough money. They could use it. Hard way to earn it, but yeah. I'm just thinking, if I ever needed my money topped up, with once it gets shown that you can't just accuse me of being a groomer in a public setting where I'm likely to get targeted because of it, and I can sue them, I might have another line of income coming in soon. Look at this. I have a matching shirt in travel mug. No, this way. There we go. Yeah, it was part of the it was a gift to me. Some Majority Report merch. Oh, Monope. Good job, no wrong way to pronounce my username. LOL. Okay, good to know. Okay, so let's get on with the news. As usual, when I start this, I usually start off with Gaza because when I'm covering that, that's generally speaking the most horrific topic. As well, a reminder, I don't tend to cover the worst of the worst. There's so many aspects of that conflict to cover that that also need attention. So I try not to put in anything too graphic, but the nature of what it is horrific and graphic no matter how you look at it. So, just be warned, but I don't believe I have any images up or anything that, would be upsetting. But let's go over, well, all images related to it is upsetting. Even what I'm about to show you is still upsetting. Let's make this a bit bigger. So this was just from December 21st. Ken Klippenstein tweeted out 172 member nations voted in favor of a UN resolution affirming Palestinians' right to self-determination. 4 countries voted against. And can you say you're surprised? Israel saying no, Palestinians don't have the right to self-determination. And either, the United States also saying that. There were 10 abstentions too. But, the pressure has really been put on my country, Canada. We voted in favor of it for a change, which is surprising that it's gotten to the point where even the Canadian government is like, we need to start changing our language a little bit here and maybe referring to things like a ceasefire because what's going on there is just indefensible. It is just, you can't maintain any level of like what is happening is justified, even though Justin Trudeau is still in all of his speeches and stuff saying, Israel has a right to defend itself, which again is just code language now for Israel gets to do whatever they want, which is horrible. But there has been some improvements. with his attitude towards it. And you can tell he doesn't want to change his mind. He's doing it not of his own volition type thing. He's doing it because of the pressure. So we need to keep that pressure on. Justin Trudeau. Let's see. Some of these are just some random things I found. Trekkie Bill, somebody that I recently found on Twitter that I've been liking a lot of their stuff. So does he know Jar Jar Binks is one of the good guys? And that's not Jar Jar. Okay, people, right-wingers. When you are trying to make a statement, can you just leave pop culture, especially sci-fi and like Marvel movies, out of it? Because a lot of us on the left are nerds and geeks, and we know what we're talking about here. And yeah, the people rooting for the Houthis are the same people that rooted for Jar Jar Binks. That is not Jar Jar Binks. As that is not, it's like some sort of ET thing. I don't even know. Like, don't type in Jar Jar to an AI generator and expect you're going to get anything remotely accurate. Yeah, like just I've seen so many times right-wingers, extremists, or been like trying to make references to the MCU or to Star Trek or to Star Wars, and they have no clue what they are talking about, because a lot of the sci-fi and stuff too have political messages. Like Star Trek Next Generation is completely political, like all of the Star Treks, very political shows. It's just disguised in storytelling in a way that can maybe get past some people's defenses and barriers and really. I'm about to go off in their Star Trek tangent because I've been rewatching Star Trek The Next Generation recently, like from beginning to end. First time as like an older adult, rewatching it in order, and I'm seeing so much now that I never saw before. And I just watched the episode of the Janai. That's the race of people where there are no genders. It's just one gender and stuff, and how some of them are throwbacks and feel more masculine and feminine, and what happens to them if they're discovered and all that sort of stuff. And I take a lot of it with like, this was in the early 90s. Were they great on these issues? Not 100%, but you could tell they were trying. The culture, the language hadn't quite caught up with them yet. But, a couple of their episodes were basically, a lot of their episodes had to do with like trans issues and queer issues in general. And, because before the episode with the Janai, there was one with the first symbiont, like Dax type symbiont type thing, a Trill. And, Dr. Crusher falls in love with this man, only finds out that he's a Trill, and his body gets killed, but the Trill is still alive, and the Trill gets moved into a different body, and then they're waiting for a new person to come from the homeland to take this Trill. If you don't know Star Trek, I'm sorry, this is going to go way over your head. A Trill is a little creature that lives in their stomach, and depending on when you watch it, it either takes over full control of the person, or it's an amalgamation. But it's something that people volunteer to. It's a high honor. So in the Next Generation, when they first introduce the Trill, it's more the Trill is the main influence over the host. Whereas, in Deep Space Nine, they have Dax, who's a Trill. And it's more a combination of all the personalities, including her very present and real personality, all kind of being merged together. But anyway, back to Dr. Crusher and this male Trill. The Trills don't really have gender. It all depends on who their host is. And so when the new host shows up and is a woman who, still loves Beverly, but Beverly just can't get past that because, she's straight, she's heterosexual, even though everything she loved about this man is in that creature, that Trill. And so it does question the idea. And she says in that episode, like maybe one day, you know, we'll become more open with that when it comes to love and stuff. And so you could see the issues of like queerness and transgender going on in that. And then the episode with the Janai, where it's only one gender in that species. And just when the main character Janai was asking Riker questions or other people questions about like what does it mean to be male and female, like some of their answers still very kind of stereotypical, like a very distinct, there is absolutely a difference between men and women, but there's so many caveats when you really look at it, you know, because you would look at what they're saying now and it's like it's a good start, and it was a good start back then, because like men tend to be bigger and stronger and on and on and on, but there are women who are also bigger or stronger, like there's men who are a lot smaller and not physically as strong. So there's a lot of crossover. There's as it is, like there is no one trait that all men have that all women don't have, and there's no one trait all women have and absolutely no men don't have, or something. You know what I mean. Anyway, I did not mean to get off on a tangent like this. Back to the horrors of Gaza. But yeah. If we scroll down, I like, what is this? Because somebody said, hey man, I don't know if you know, but that is E.T. Jar Jar Binks from a different movie or something. And he's like, yeah, here some didn't come up so good. Here's a better one for you. That is not better. That is horrific. That is still not what Jar Jar Binks is. Like, just stop trying to meme. You're no good at it. Like, the rate is just no good at it. Yeah. It's just like, what are you doing here? I think somebody actually drew that one. It's not showing up. I like to comment under this. Might have hidden it. Somebody just saying, because he said that it was AI generated and stuff like that. And somebody just mentioning like, oh, an Israeli taking something that isn't theirs and trying to claim it as their own or something like that. And it's like, makes sense. Let's see. So I have a very hard time trying to understand the mind of a Zionist. I don't get it. And so when I see videos of what they actually think, my mind is literally blown. Like, I don't understand how anybody can talk about another group of people this way. Like, at all. I or just this idea that any one person is entitled to land in some sort of way. It is just, you know, I know some people on Twitter that I follow who speak Hebrew and say that this translation is accurate, what we're about to watch. The Tori, the lefty Canadian radical, she's on Twitter. She's fantastic. Follow her if you are still on the hostile Fartsana. And she just says 12,000 children and more need to die so Zionists can have a beach day. This is evil. So settlers want the sea to the sea. This is a logical and romantic demand. Gaza must be erased so that settlers can see the sea. We must evacuate Gaza, all of the Arabs, and build Jewish settlements in all of Gaza. Danielle West, head of a Zionist settler movement, said. I'm just going to read the translation. So she says, Gaza must be erased so that settlers can see the sea. The situation needs to end. What we did in northern Gaza, we must do it in... Oh, that went by fast. We must do it in south of Gaza. evacuating Gaza of Arabs, and building Jewish settlements in all of Gaza. Because the settlers of the Gaza Strip want to see the sea. In order to see the sea, all homes in Gaza must be destroyed. There are no homes or Arabs left in Gaza. This is a logical and romantic demand. How will they see the sea? We must do it south of Gaza. Gaza is a Jewish city. Gaza is not a Hamas city. Gaza is one of the cities of Israel. We will simply go back there. A historical mistake has occurred. Now we correct it. And the Zionists, the Israeli government, is correcting it by genocide. And that's not a correction. It is just genocide. It is horrible what is happening there. The breaking news that we'll see on some of the Al Jazeera news articles that I have is that the death toll is now over 21,000. And there's no reprieve even on Christmas Day, for the Christians who live in the West Bank and Gaza. There's no break. The bombing has been continuous. And, just to show that this isn't kind of like a one-off opinion, there's this person, I don't know much about her, but I've been hearing a fair bit about her recently. But I know her better by her nickname of Eve Fartlow, as opposed to Eve Bartlow. Let's see. Here. She's one that likes to ask people questions, but then she'll also restrict who can actually answer. You have to be mutuals with her or mentioned in order for you to answer these questions that she just kind of throws out there. But yeah, so Eve Bartlow, Tel Aviv, 6 a.m., runners on the beach, waves lapping, Jaffa lit up. In the distance, Zionism on crack. Thanks for being you, Israel. So what I hear is that this is a real person. She is a real horrible person. This isn't an act. This is who she is.
Well, 6 a.m. here, and I just got in, dumped my bags in my room, and went straight out on the balcony to smell that Tel Aviv air and to watch life. I'm so emotional right now. I don't know what to say other than if you're not Jewish and you're watching this, you're gonna think it's crazy.
And I'm pretty sure even a lot of Jewish people will be watching this going,
That Jews go bananas for being in a war zone and feel safe and happy in a war zone over anywhere else in the world. But I could not be happier right now. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is where we're supposed to be. This is home. I'm so happy I'm here, and I can't wait to just tell the world what's going on here.
Let's see. Does that look like a war zone to you? Do you think she's in the middle of the war zone? Feeling happy? Like, to have that type of attitude when tens of thousands of people, innocent people, are being slaughtered right next to you is so gross. So gross. And as somebody pointed out in one of the quote tweets, or here, it's just, I don't know who this person is other than the interrupter, journalist, Zionist, feminist, Scottish. So if she's Scottish, Is Israel really her homeland there? Really? Really? I just I don't understand how people can feel so entitled to so much land that they think a genocide is okay in any circumstance. But to be there, so happy to be breathing that air, seeing that beautiful beach and stuff, while just a couple kilometers away, people are being slaughtered. How can you be a human and do that? I just, and how can somebody like her actually rise to some sort of fame and prevalence in influence at all? Like, how is she so accepted? How is this attitude so accepted by the people in power? It is disgusting that you can say this sort of stuff and face absolutely no backlash. In fact, if you speak out against the genocide, if you speak in support of Palestinians, then you will get the backlash. And the thing that's just so frustrating about this is that anti-Semitism is a problem. That it really is a problem. You know, Jewish people are under attack. But to act like this war is about the threat towards them is so much wanting to be the victim in this situation. Because they're the ones that are aggressing. You can't even really call it a war. Like, a war is just a term to make it easier to communicate, but it's not like it's two sides of an equal force fighting it out. You know, it is just Israel bombing the hell out of Gaza and indiscriminately killing people, killing journalists, killing families. Like, it is just. But somebody who's been posting a lot about this is Matt Lieb. Funny. He's super funny. He's a comedian. And he, it's kind of like he gets to say a lot of, he gets to add his perspective of being a Jewish man who's not a Zionist and who actually sees humanity in other people. And a lot of his posts just really, he shines a light on the attitude of some of the Zionists in such a way that, like, I think he's just doing a parody until other people say, no, I've actually heard Zionists say this sort of thing. And I'm like, wow. So another great account. He's also on Instagram and stuff. Follow him if you can. Really good stuff. But this is something kind of in relation to Eve Fartlow.
Eve Fartlow is trending again.
Yeah, I love when Eve Fartlow trends.
It's beautiful.
No.
I mean, she's the one that made it a thing, though.
Right, she kept talking about her hate name.
Reduced to a Twitter meme and a hate name, Eve Fartlow.
All her tweets are too good to be true, but the one that's getting a lot of attention now is about her saying she's going to Israel, I'm going home. And then someone like quote tweeting her being like, you were born in Scotland.
You're from Scotland. I'm sorry, but I've heard this before. It was a thing racist housewives used to say in the 90s. They would say, we're all from Africa originally, so I don't see color.
Her tweet from 2013. I hate it when the only seats left on the bus are seats Mexicans just sat in. Like, who wants to feel Latino butt heat when they sit down?
And yet somehow this Eve person, again, is somebody others take seriously? Is somebody who has like a career in journalism and is an influencer? Like, are you kidding me? That somebody like her can get away with all of this? Wow.
Barf face.
You know, listen, she was young. Like, now she would be horrified that she said that about anyone who wasn't Palestinian.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Really good account. Go follow Matt. He's great. Let's see. This is where we'll get into some of the Christmas related stuff and all of this, but from the Israel Defense Force, or sometimes you'll see the IOF, which is the Israel Offensive Force. On behalf of the IDF, we wish all those who celebrate in Israel and around the world a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And Mehdi Hassan, except the ones in the church in Gaza. Yeah. People in a Christian church were targeted from IDF soldiers and killed. There are no safe places in Gaza. There are no safe groups you can be a part of. Journalists, religious figures, influencers, babies. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They'll target you all the same. And just some of the footage that's coming out of there, the things that they're doing, how they round up all the men and put them in the stadium and stuff. And then there's other horrific stories that come out. With some of them, I take with a grain of salt because it sounds a little bit too... Like, it's... I was avoiding trying to say it in the last stream I was talking about this because it sounds so horrific about some women that were on the way to the hospital who were in labor and that they were killed by bulldozers. That I have a hard time with believing, because it sounds to me very similar to the 40 beheaded babies and the mass gang rapes that Hamas did. It's not like it's not something they could do, and the IDF does actually have a track record of doing that. There is a case of it from a few years ago of a woman who was standing up to them, and they did do just that. They ran over her with a bulldozer and killed her. But it's when all these other things start getting added to it, like, oh, they were on the way to the hospital, they were pregnant, and then all of a sudden they were all in labor on the way to the hospital, and then they all of a sudden all had white flags and stuff, and it was just like this add-on and add-on and add-on. So with something like that, there's enough real horrors and stuff like that. If it did happen, then yes, horrific beyond belief. But when we hear any stories, especially the most unimaginable stories out there in the fog of war, don't take it with a grain of salt. Yes, it could have happened. No, it might not have happened. A lot of what has happened won't be known until this is over. And even then, a lot of what happened, depending on which side wins, we're only going to hear part of the story. So it's too hard in the moment to really say what is and isn't happening. Like, even when some of the hostages are killed, some have been proven to be killed by the IDF, some have not. It's again, just all of it is horrible. Let's see, is that this article? Or was it this article? Anyway, MP here in Canada just tweeted out, on Christmas Eve, church leaders in Bethlehem issue a powerful condemnation of mass killings taking place in Gaza on Christmas Day. Netanyahu sent the Israeli army into Bethlehem. I think Bethlehem and Christmas, they're connected. I think there's a strong connection between the two. I'm not religious myself, but I'm pretty sure there's like a big crossover with how those two things are celebrated to do this. But again, this one I can absolutely believe, because on a lot of Muslim holy days is often when you see footage of the IDF going into mosques, terrorizing, beating, arresting people while they try to worship. We've seen it time and time again. But people tend to forget about that. But it's been happening for years, every year, around holy times for Muslim people. You see the footage of the IDF going into the mosques and harassing them and harming them and beating them and all that sort of stuff. So it makes absolute sense. Like, it falls in line with their character. to then go into Bethlehem on Christmas. Let's see. I think I have one of these articles was about it. Oh, I moved it. I rearranged all my tabs. It's way over here. So Israel hits Bethlehem in Christmas raids on occupied West Bank. Dozens have been arrested as Israel forces stormed Jenin and areas. Oh, Jenin? I'm horrible with names. Sorry, I'm so sorry. And areas around Nablus. Christmas Day in occupied West Bank began with an attack in the Jenin refugee camp and several arrests. The raid on Monday morning followed several others across the territory, which dozens of arrests, and the shooting in the neck of a 17-year-old boy among towns hit was Bethlehem. Now, here's the thing. That's the West Bank. Hamas isn't in the West Bank. Hamas is in the Gaza Strip. So why is Israel hitting Bethlehem in the West Bank on Christmas? Because with all the horrors going on in the Gaza Strip, a lot of people haven't realized what's been happening in the West Bank and how many hundreds of people have just been indiscriminately killed there as well. From soldiers, from settlers. It is like, this is how you know it's not about Hamas, because there is no Hamas in the West Bank, and yet these atrocities are continuing to happen there. Yeah, Christmas Day began with another attack on Jenin refugee camp as the Israeli army lights up the sky with flare bombs. Israel forces did call for Palestinian fighters to come out and give themselves up. That didn't happen either. Residents are telling us that it's simply a campaign of harassment. Increased violence in the occupied West Bank. The West Bank has seen surging violence and arrests in parallel to Israel's war in the Gaza Strip, which has killed more than 20,000 people. And up here in the breaking news banner, it says, yeah, it's crossed 21,000. Israel says it's targeting Hamas in Gaza, but the violence in the West Bank is taking place despite Hamas having a limited presence in the territory. Israeli incursions into the West Bank have killed at least 303 Palestinians since October 7th. In addition to the activities of Israeli military attacks by Israeli settlers are also on the rise. At least 700,000 Israeli settlers live in an illegal fortified Jewish-only settlements across the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and the majority of which were built either entirely or partially on private Palestinian land. It is just... The Zionists won't be happy until they have all of the land and they don't care the cost. Did I get these all out of order? I did, didn't I? Darn it. This one goes down here. Sorry. Now, here's the thing. I remember reading about like over 100 people killed in one incident in an Israeli airstrike, and I went to Google it. And instead of just finding that article, I also found this article. Gaza media office says 100 journalists killed since Israeli attacks began. Yeah. Palestinian journalist Mohammed Abu, sorry, I have no idea how to say that name, latest to be killed in Israeli attack on his home in the east of Gaza City. At least 100 journalists have been killed since Israel's war on Gaza began October 7th, according to new figures released by the government media office in Gaza. Now, here's the thing about purposely targeting journalists. That's a war crime. Yeah, that's a no-no. Yet, the Canadian government, the American government, they haven't done anything. They haven't said anything. They haven't put any conditions on the money and weapons that they're sending to Israel. They're the ones with the power to do something, and they're choosing not to, even though there are blatant war crimes happening. Like just the collective punishment that's going on in Gaza, in everything, just all the horrors. And the countries with the power to actually influence Israel are doing nothing. The number of journalists killed has risen to 100 men and women since the start of the brutal war on the Gaza Strip after the martyrdom of journalist Muhammad, an Israeli airstrike in a neighborhood, the office said in a Telegram social media. Palestinian officials in Gaza say the number could be much higher. However, according to a tally committed to protect journalists, at least 69 journalists have been killed in the conflict, including Al Jazeera's Arabic cameraman Samir. More than 50 media premises or offices in Gaza have been completely or partially destroyed by Israeli attacks. Hundreds of Palestinian journalists and their families have been forcibly displaced to the south. The media workers were also forced to abandon their reporting equipment in offices in the north to live and report under difficult conditions amid frequent communication blackouts. Yeah, so I found that article when I was looking for information on this article. More than 100 people have been killed in an Israeli strike on a refugee camp with families still trapped in the rubble. And so the main headline now is Israel intensified Gaza strikes, killing 250 Palestinians in 24 hours. This is the news on Christmas Day. This news came out. Israel has intensified its assault on the Gaza Strip, killing more than 100 people at a refugee camp, with Palestinian authorities reporting that 250 people have been killed in a wave of strikes over 24 hours. My entire family is gone. All 5 of my brothers are gone. They didn't leave me any brothers, all of them, a wailing woman said on Monday at the refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip. And just to get a sense of the devastation that's going on there, this is footage. Like, there is no going back. Like, they kept on saying, okay, you have to move from northern Gaza. You have to relocate over 1 million people. Just, you have to temporarily relocate so we can get rid of Hamas and stuff. Nobody can go back to that. There's nothing to go back to. Like, it would even be dangerous to even attempt to go back. And the thing is that the death count is now over 21,000. That's not necessarily including all the people that are still under that rubble that haven't been counted. Just horrifying. Let's see. And so here we have, so in Israel, it's there's I'm getting words all merged in my brain. You know what I mean, where you have to do your duty and actually serve in the military. Conscription. No. I have like 3 different words that begin with "kun" all in my head right now, merged together. I know the word, but there's 3 of them all in one right now, so it's not coming out the way that I had hoped. So full statement from Tal, the Israeli 18-year-old sentenced to prison for refusing to enlist. I do not want to take part in the continuation of the oppression and the continuation of the cycle of bloodshed, but to work directly for a solution, and therefore I refuse. So yeah, if they, I'll just put this up on screen, and if you want to read the whole thing, you can freeze it now, or you can go to the Twitter account later on and read it for yourself. But it's a bit long, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. But it's good to have people making public stands against you know, partaking in the genocide machine. Like, to refuse that, like similar when Americans were forced to join the military during, what was it, Vietnam and stuff like that, and the people who even fled up to Canada to so that they wouldn't be constricted cons, conscription conscripted. Yeah, as somebody is putting in the chat. Yeah, I have like 3 different words that begin with "con" all in my head right now that could all kind of apply to this, and then that just makes my brain go off. um, uh, and here are some people. 30 days in prison is a small price. Like, it's easy. 30 days in prison is easy to then not participate in a genocide. I'd do it in a heartbeat. If those were my 2 options, participate in a military that's committing genocide or go to prison for 30 days, I'm in prison for 30 days. It's not a hard decision, and it shouldn't be a hard decision for anyone. Oh, no, I already looked. Did I have that one twice? That might be why I'm confusing things. But more on the, yeah. So more with the idea of Christmas in Bethlehem. With war raging in Gaza, Christmas is effectively canceled in Bethlehem. Church bells echo through a labyrinth-like streets of Bethlehem. With Christmas approaching, the city in the Israeli-occupied West Bank should be teeming with visitors, but this year it's almost deserted, and it was officially no celebration of Christmas in Bethlehem. No. Which, for people who are religious, that should mean something. That should be telling you something there. Like, I'm not religious, and I get it. I get what they're saying and how horrible it is. Local leaders made the decision last month to scale back festivities in solidarity with the Palestinian population as heavy fighting raged between Israel and Hamas in the devastated Gaza Strip. The thing is that people of other faiths have also been targeted. It's not just Muslims who are being targeted. It's not just Palestinians who are being targeted. It's anyone who is in the Gaza Strip, regardless of their profession, which country they're from, what their religion is in. It doesn't matter. They're all being targeted right now. That's all news that we've already gone over. Decorations that once adorned neighborhoods have been removed. The parades and religious celebrations have been canceled. In the city center, the traditional enormous Christmas tree of Manger Square is conspicuously absent. Traveling into Bethlehem, about 8 kilometers south of Jerusalem, isn't ordinarily an easy journey. The Israeli-built West Bank barrier restricts movement, as do the various checkpoints leading in and out of the city. It's only gotten worse since Hamas's brazen attack. Yeah. Like, growing up here in Canada, Christmas was like the holiday. Even when workplaces were allowed to start working during holidays and stuff like that, Christmas was still one of those days where it's like, no, nobody can work. Nobody at all. That's the one day where all these landmark malls and stuff will be shut down. And to think Christmas had to be canceled in Bethlehem because of how bad things are over there. How do they reconcile this? I don't understand people who are in support of what the Israeli government is doing, what the IDF is doing. How do they reconcile this in their heads? I don't understand what kind of person you have to be like Eve looking out at that beach saying, we own this, we deserve this, even at the cost of all these innocent people. It's so disgusting in so many ways. I can't imagine it. I can't imagine what you would have to think, what kind of person you would have to be okay with what is happening over there. But people do try to, let's see if I'm doing this in the order that I had planned on doing it. Okay, yes. People are still trying to minimize it or justify it because this guy here tweeted out Israel, the most non-Arab country. And he has this little graph here showing, Israel, 18% is Muslim. And down in Canada is 4.9%. All that sort of stuff. And so see, aren't they so merciful type thing? Isn't Israel so great that they allowed to have this very high Muslim population there? So how did it get down to 18%? It used to be much higher. It used to be a lot higher. So how did it get down? It had to go down to 18%, and saying that you've allowed 18% Muslims to exist there, so that should show how honorable and progressive and forward and good you are, is sickening. To kind of, I quickly just hopped online to look up some numbers because it's pretty much the same as this. Oh, and I'm saying this without even having the freaking screen up. Sorry about that. I gotta get better at looking over at that. See, here's the graph that I was just talking about in great detail that nobody was seeing. Sorry about that. Right there. See it? It is on the screen now, right over there. I'm a YouTuber. But here's the graph. So yeah, 4.9% in Canada, 18% in Israel. But I just did a quick Google search and I looked at this. So here we have, which you can basically not see because it's very small, but let's make that bigger. So Indigenous populations percent, it's 16.5% in New Zealand, 5% in Canada, 3.8% in Australia, 2% in USA. You see, the things that these countries in Israel have in common is that for settler colonialism is the commonality. And you see these numbers, it would be kind of like applauding New Zealand for having 16.5% of its population being Indigenous. Because before settlers went over, it was 100%. We brought it down to those numbers. So the fact that he can try to brag that they have 18% in this non-Arab country, yeah, it used to be a lot higher before, Israel was there. Israel was declared, Israel was put in place. But also came across this, so distribution of Indigenous peoples in the Americas. And so you can see almost none, then 1%, 2.5%, 5%, 10%, and then 80 and up. So the 80 and ups, if you look over at Nunavut, keep in mind the population in Nunavut is terribly small, and Nunavut is a territory in Canada and some areas in South America. But if you look at the United States and the most of Canada and over here, before the settlers came over, before the West came over, Spain, France, England, all of them, that was all 100% Indigenous. But you know, these Zionists, they look for anything where they can be like, oh, look at us, aren't we so great? Aren't we so benevolent in what we're doing? It is just, Take a quick break, clean the palate here, and let's take a look over at the sandbox and see what people are saying. Oh, it looks like people have been saying a lot up here. Well, welcome everyone who has came over here from wherever you were. Sam Cedar Army. Hey, this is the sandbox. that's the new name I'm trying to get for my chat, is to call it the sandbox, because you know I'm Sandy and this is Left of the Box, and so people go and play in the sandbox. Makes sense. Kind of cute, a little unique. But yes, there's a lot of Majority Report crossover. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe because I'm like a huge Majority Report fan. uh, let's see. Wow. Okay, people have been really chatting. So now I get into the point where I'm trying to find chats that are not part of the conversation that's happening in the sandbox, and that I know what they're in reference to. So, okay, so that I had already seen. Lynn, any thoughts from anyone here why if the left having a larger interest in sci-fi? It involves like a certain level of imagination, of acceptance, of embracing, of believing scientific fact type things. Whereas it has been shown that people on the right tend to be more closed-minded, tend to be less willing to accept change and things of that sort. Like I imagine there's many layers of like psychological things going on that lead it so that a lot of sci-fi and things tend to be more left-leaning. Also, that's where the money is when it comes to movies and stuff. More people will go out to see these sci-fi movies versus some of those right-wing movies that have been made lately. And so it's like the studios are making it not because they themselves are progressive or anything, but they like the money. But there's lots of potential reasons as to why that is. And then there's lots of people on the right who watch it. Like there was this battle on Twitter not too long ago about people just asking right-wingers, like, if you're a fan of Star Trek, why? Like, what are you doing? And a lot of right-wingers got really offended by that because they would try to say, well, these values are all, you know, conservative values, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, the values you just listed off are not something conservatives actually espouse. So it's just, it's like, for me, the interesting one I always find is The Boys on Amazon Prime right now. I really love that series, but how many people on the right view Homelander as the sympathetic hero of the series? Kind of astonishing there. But yeah, like a lot of these sci-fis, it's about expanding your mind, accepting different realities, accepting different premises and stuff. And that's not something a lot of people on the right are open to, unfortunately. Lynn, if anyone is into Star Trek and unfamiliar with Jesse Gender with a look, very long form, neurodivergent, gender, non-conforming geekery. Yes, I love the commentary. There was the commentary about Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I love also the breakdown of Andor. Like, you have to go watch all of Andor and then watch Jesse Gender's analysis of it. and it is just amazing. Yeah. Her analysis of it is just so poignant. I haven't been able to watch too much of her Star Trek commentary though, because she's commenting on a lot of the Star Trek series I haven't seen yet, because I haven't seen like Lower Decks and the most recent Picard season and stuff, because I don't have any of the streaming services all of these other episodes are on. So I've had to kind of avoid a lot of the commentary she might be giving on Star Trek right now. The anti-corporatist says, hey, hey, Sandy. So I will say, hey, hey, the anti-corporatist. Oh, will Lance be off next week, Looney Tunes 9000? Because you put in the comments, welcome those rating us from the Surfs Times. A reminder, surfers, Lance will be off for a week and return with season 6 of the Surfs after the new year. We are one of your alternate choices. Yes, I'm going to be doing my streams probably until mid-January, and then I'll take a break. Basically, once all the other programming has started to come back. Because, again, I know how lonely people can get this time of year, and how a lot of our regular programming goes on vacation, and a lot of people are left wondering what to do. So I will continue with my content as much as I can. And I do want a break though, probably mid-January, where I just focus on art. Like I just want a couple weeks where all I do is artwork and not worry about all of this politics. I'm still going to pay attention and worry about it, but it just may not make videos about it unless it really is bugging me, and then I might hop on. Who knows? Who knows? Like I say, I won't, but I've just been, every time I'm like, I'm going to take a break from social media today, I'm right back on it. Let's see. Schmigli, targeting journalists and their families. Yes, a lot of the journalists killed, it's often with family nearby. They're targeting their homes with families, sometimes children. It's horrible. B. Cat K, plenty of Palestinian atheists exist. I wouldn't doubt that. My dogs are goth. I love your sweater, Sandy. Yeah, it was my gift. It was a gift to me this year to get a bunch of Majority Report merch. So I have a travel mug that matches my shirt. I also got the hoodie, which I like, some of the pencils, the regular mug, the Posit mug, and some stickers. And am I down near the bottom? Looney Tunes 9000. Yep, he will be off starting tomorrow, Sandy. Then maybe I should start doing more streams. Because there's still overlap between mine and his show. I have moved it because I was thinking maybe I should do them at 4 or 5, and then realizing how late Lance starts his and goes, and it's like, too much overlap. Zero PE, one of my favorite revolutionary channels, did a panel on Andor and had so much positive stuff to say about it, and it's relevant to this society and possible revolution. Yeah. No, Andor, it's such a good series. You don't have to be into Star Wars at all to love Andor. And in fact, there's like almost no talk of like the Force and Jedi and things like that. It is really just about the rebellion and what it takes. And also, a reminder to everyone who might not didn't know, happy birthday, Zero PE. Happened on December 24th, I believe. Mhm. Autumn leaves, such nice merch. Yes, it is. I've been contemplating doing like a little striptease because back when I went to the Boston Live show, I also got the t-shirt, the toque and scarf and stuff. So I'm like, okay, so do I put the toque, scarf, and then like all the different layers on and do like a striptease of all the Majority Report merch that I have? It could be fun. I don't know. BKK Sam definitely tells his loved ones to pause it during dinner conversations. I imagine he gets into it over these the holidays. Let's see. What is next on the docket? That's it. What's next on the docket? How about some Canadian stuff? There's a couple stories that I was wanting to hit on for a while that I haven't gotten to, so we're just going to quickly go over them, and then we'll get into some of that Supreme Court stuff I was talking about. But first, let's do this.
Today in Canadian news.
Yes, today in Canadian news, our healthcare is in really, really bad state. So we have Kelly on Twitter who is posting this news article. Women repeatedly sent home from Langley Memorial Hospital actually needed emergency surgery. This story hits so close to home, it's taken me a week to process and share. In my 20s, I was sent home from the ER 3 times with infected cantaloupe-sized abscess in my belly from post-op bleed. My then boyfriend had to take me a 4th time and make a scene so they wouldn't discharge me again. It's a bit of a long thread. It just goes over her experience of how she was ignored, how, like, her talk of how she was in pain was being dismissed, how since she didn't have exactly every symptom that the textbook says that she should have for infection, they ruled out that possibility, and it almost killed her. And it is very depressing if you ever go online, because I've done this before when I was searching for a story, saying, asking Google who died, like a person died at the ER, was turned away and died at the ER. So many articles came up, different stories across the country of people who the wait time in the ER was so long they didn't make it, or they were repeatedly turned away from an ER and then died. And that's in Canada. That's Canada. Like, our healthcare is really, so many people don't understand how thin that ice is on our healthcare. And a lot of them don't get it until it's too late. So this is the article she was referencing. So women repeatedly sent home from Langley need emergency surgery. 3 times she went to Langley Memorial Hospital emergency room for help. 3 times she said she was sent home, but it turned out that Trista, 39, did indeed desperately need help. She would later require emergency surgery and receive devastating diagnosis. She said she first went to LMH in late November. I was very sick and throwing up a lot, very nauseous. I had a lot of stomach pain. I was definitely dizzy. My vision was blurry, she said in an interview with CTV News. Our friend was with Trista, and she was crying to the hospital staff, please help her. Something's not right. You cannot release her like this. And they did anyway, said Tanya, Trista's sister. She said they didn't want to give up, so after being released from Langley Memorial for a 3rd day in a row, family sent her to Surrey Memorial. She said her sister laid down on the floor ER waiting for more than 10 hours before she got help. I was in so much pain. I was trying to sit down. I couldn't do it. I needed to lie down, she said. When she was finally seen by doctors, her dire condition started to become clear. The nurse came on the phone, and the doctors as well, and they told me she had a massive brain bleed and was being rushed to Royal Columbian for emergency surgery. They put her in an induced coma before they put her in the ambulance, she explained, adding that she was in a coma for several days. When she was in surgery, doctors discovered a brain-sized tumor, a brain tumor the size of a golf ball. She told CTV News she had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. What I'm hearing is I'm going to be needing aggressive radiation and chemotherapy, she said. As she battles for her life, she's angry at the initial lack of care. I definitely don't feel like I was treated like a person, more like an animal, just judged, she said. Now she and her family are speaking out in hopes it will bring change. They've also started an online fundraiser. And just so people know, like, this is for Canadians who, let's just say, if you're Indigenous and you go into an emergency room to try to get help, there's a very, very strong possibility you will not get the help you need and that you'll get turned away. And the rate of Indigenous peoples dying in emergency rooms here in Canada is horrific. It is, yeah. Our healthcare system needs help. Like, I've been fortunate enough that every time I've had to go to emerge, I have been seen, even though sometimes I might have had to wait about 6 hours. But for the times where it was like I was in critical condition, I didn't have to wait too long in order to get seen. But that was also before COVID. I have no idea what it'd be like now if I needed to get seen right away. And that's the thing, like, this healthcare system has saved my life 5 times over. There's no doubt about that. But now I'm wondering, in some of those situations, would I have been turned away? Would I have received the care back then? Like the same care now that I received back then? That saved my life? I don't know. Like, it shouldn't be a gamble to go into the emergency room in Canada. You know, our universal health care, this should be guaranteed. You know, you should be able to think to yourself, I need to go to emergency and I'll get seen and I'll get treated and I'll get all that I need. And that doesn't happen. And so many emergency rooms across Ontario get shut down for like a weekend at a time because they don't have the staff. Like, we are in a healthcare crisis. Absolute crisis in this country. And yet so many people don't know it because it hasn't affected them yet. There was this story that came up a little while ago that I wanted to touch on just briefly. Again, it's just the double standards in this country, or just, you know, the racism that happens here. So deporting Singh Sidhu is not justice, it's cruelty. It was clearly an accident. He stayed on the scene. He showed immediate remorse. He pleaded guilty. He's serving his prison sentence. He poses zero risk to anyone and has built a life in Canada. So what are we talking about here exactly? So this man was sent to prison because he was responsible for the Humboldt Broncos crash that happened in 2018 that killed 16 people and injured 13 others. And he pleaded guilty to dangerous driving. This was a tragic, tragic accident. And he's going to jail. He has to live with this guilt, which is ripping him apart. But then after this, they're going to deport him. So a judge dismissed applications on Thursday from a truck driver who caused the deadly Humboldt Broncos bus crash and was fighting deportation back to India. The rookie Calgary driver, a newly married permanent resident, barreled through a stop sign at a rural intersection near Tisdale, Saskatchewan, and drove into the path of a bus carrying a junior hockey team to a playoff game. Sidhu was granted parole earlier this year, and the Canada Border Services Agency and recommendations recommended he be deported. Sindhu's lawyer, Michael Green, argued before a federal court in September that Border Services officials don't consider Sindhu's previously clean criminal record and remorse. Green asked that the agency be ordered to conduct a second review of the case and set aside the decision. The facts underlying Mr. Sindhu's application to the court were devastating for everyone involved. Many lives were lost, others were torn apart, and many hopes and dreams were shattered. Chief Justice Paul Crampton wrote in his decision, "Unfortunately, nothing this court decides can change much of those truly tragic consequences." He was a permanent resident. He has a family here, a life too, and this was a tragic accident. He's not a threat after this. Like, this wasn't an intentional act. He's not about to become a truck driver again after he gets released from prison. And yet, on top of his 8-year prison sentence, he will then be deported and ripped away from his family as well. And if you go to the comments related to this, the amount of people just saying, good, deport him, and all this sort of stuff is saddening. It really is, that people can just be so crass. Julie was just extending her tweet saying, just to spell it out clearly for the xenophobes, there is no version of reality where a white boy from Saskatchewan causes an accident like this, shows immediate remorse, pleads guilty to spare the family and people still want more. The calls for vengeance are racist, period. Like many of you, I've been following this saga since day one. I can't stop thinking about the parents who have been vocal from the very beginning that deportation is not justice. Their empathy and compassion is so, so admirable. I wish it was shared by everyone. Yeah, so what would the cutoff be? What if he was a child when he came to Canada? Would people still demand he be deported? You know, what if he was more than just a permanent resident and had been granted his full citizenship? What if he came from a different country? What if he came from France? Would people still be demanding that after his sentence he get deported to France? No, it is just sheer racism that this is happening. And as Julie was mentioning, like, some of the family members of the people who lost loved ones are saying that they don't want him deported, that, you know, he's already suffering, and nothing will give back those families what they lost. I can't imagine what he must be going through. Like, if I did something that accidentally resulted in the death of even a single person, I don't know how I'd ever be able to live with myself. I just, like, my empathy for him is pretty strong, and my empathy for the families that lost loved ones, because, you know, they have people in their family that they'll never see again either, and it was an accident. It was, yeah. Let's go back here. If I do something horrible in Ontario, do I get deported to Alberta? Like, I was born there. Let's see. think everyone is talking about Sam's special someone over the holidays that is so special. He's actually celebrating Christmas. That's how special she is. Yeah. I want to be that person in somebody's life where they will celebrate Christmas because of me. Be that person somebody will celebrate Christmas for. There's a new one. Yeah, he seemed really. I'm just catching up to the BKK comment about him saying that. And it was really funny. He's like, a friend, a really good friend. A friend someone I'm seeing, someone special. It's like you could just say your girlfriend, your partner, you know. He still seems very shy about it. It's kind of cute. Monope, thank you for checking out my art. Yes, I am an artist. I'm still trying to, you know, um, get that off and going. I'll talk more about my goals and stuff for next year on my New Year's Eve stream, which will be earlier. So I'm going to have a stream on Friday. And without the service on tomorrow, I don't know, maybe I'll go in tomorrow. I'll see how I'm doing. I'm going to have a normal stream on Friday, even though Friday is now a new normal for me as of like last week at 6 p.m. And then on Sunday is the other evening where it's usually a normal time for me. But instead of 6, I'm going to bump it down to 4 p.m. because I actually have somewhere to go. Nope. Oh my God, Smiling Sam Cedar is one of the best drawings I've ever seen. Oh, thank you. What you need to do now is go to my YouTube page, go to the shorts, look for the art list, and you can actually see that picture come into existence because I take progress photos as I'm doing it and I set it up on an easel and everything so they're in the exact same spot, and then I use my video editing program to merge it together so you can actually watch it fade into existence. It's really cool. I've done that with the last few drawings I've done. BKK misses someone special, probably soon to be someone special Cedar. Well, he said they were moving really fast. Shamigli, I have an ex with a somewhat similar story, ignored by doctors until she needed surgery, full hysterectomy to save her life. Yeah, that's like one time I had to go to emerge. Like they had to call an ambulance for me at my workplace because I had basically collapsed. And it turned out my gallbladder was just a rock pit. Like it was just full of stuff that it shouldn't be full of and stuff. So I needed to go in for surgery. But since it was inflamed at the time that I went into emerge, they didn't necessarily want to do surgery on my right then. And I seemed to be coming out of the like bodily shock I was in. Because if they had to do surgery right then and there with it inflamed, that meant that I was probably going to be in the hospital for a week or two. So since I started to come out of it, they were like, okay, with it going down, that means that they could do it laparoscopically, which would mean just a day surgery, which is nicer for everyone. But the fact that I was able to get that surgery 3 weeks after the fact blew the minds of my coworkers. Like they all looked at me like, oh my God, are you dying? Which kinda, yeah. Because I had a strict diet for 3 weeks of no dairy, no calories, like no flavor. It was pretty much like crackers and chicken broth and stuff like that, Gatorade for 3 weeks. And then if I had any symptoms, I had to get back to the hospital right away because my liver was trying to kill me. But since I was able to hold off, it was just a day surgery, which is a lot nicer. BCat K. Jamie is quite a bit younger than me, but I guess that doesn't mean she can't be my mom. Well, here's the thing. I can't be anyone's mom. Because I'm not a woman. And I don't like that. It's a personal thing for me, like when people refer to like Sam and like John Ideralda and stuff like that as daddy and stuff like that. Ugh. I just, no. Like if anybody were to start to refer to me in a parental role, it's like, no. I got my tubes tied at 25 for a reason, thank you. Nope. I'm American. Had my first doctor's appointment in Canada last week. It went poorly, but the doctor was the most polite, "You're a dirty drug seeker" doctor I've ever spoken with. Okay. Autumn Leaves. This is killing me. BCat K. Misty. Choki. Doesn't Cedar know he's breaking these lovely ladies' hearts? It's one of the things. It's a nice thought having him single, but it's nicer seeing him happy. Lynn with sarcasm. The crash didn't kill people, it killed young talented sports players. They're much more important than people. There was talk about that at the time. Like I have friends in theater and they're like, could you imagine this type of attention had it been like for, you know, a production like a play or something like that, or if it was a group of people in a different category or stuff. But it's that the fact that they were young male hockey players, you know, the symbol of Canada as to why it got so much attention. But like the reality is it would have gotten a lot of attention no matter who it was. It did get a little bit more, I think, because of who it was. Because that, like 16 people in one accident, 13 others injured, that would have been news no matter which group of people it was here in Canada, because that type of thing almost, like that never happens. But I think there was a bit more, what is it, pomp and circumstance, patriotism, performative stuff put onto it because of who they were. Looney Tunes 9000. Oh, where'd it go? I was just about to read your comment and it disappeared. Because sometimes it will just do that. Whoa, just fucking whoa. I feel sorry for the guy. Yeah. I can't imagine it. Like the place I used to live at a little while ago, I got home one day and there was a body on the street. There had been an accident. It's not something you normally see. Like they were covered up by the time I got there. Because I had gone to the road to see, because it was blocked off the one way and I had to go around to get home after work. But there had been a lot of construction there, so I didn't think anything of it. But since I had to go out later on that night, I just walked up to the street to see where the construction was, and there was a body on the street. And there had been an accident. Basically, a motorcycle went full speed into the side of a turning van. And the woman who was driving that van, even though it wasn't her fault at all, she had to be taken to the hospital as well for shock. Yeah, that's not something I think a lot of people are prepared to see in a day. And when I think of things like that too, it just really, like the horror that they're seeing in Gaza right now. Like just seeing one body on the street covered, but knowing that there is a person whose life ended under that sheet, seeing the police do things, knowing it was just an accident, versus the people in Gaza who've literally seen hundreds of people dead on the streets, and all of that could have been avoided. The psychological scars will never go away. They'll be there for generations. Yeah. Shamikal, doesn't seem right that immigrants should have to face an extra penalty, whatever the crime, just because they're immigrants. Yeah, it's not right. Not at all. Because then you're also punishing his family, the people he's here with as well, for, again, just a very tragic accident. And yeah, it's because he came from India. If he came from a European country, Australia, New Zealand, do you think this would be happening? Let's see. Yasuke, what's up, Sandy? I'm up. I'm still awake. I'm still very tired, though. Not as tired as I was Christmas Day, because they came knocking on my door really early this morning to come fix the plumbing issue I had in my building. Shamigal, 2 million PTSD victims. Yeah, it's just, there's no recovering from that. So does he go to Indian prison? No, he spends prison here in Canada, and then they ship him back to India to do what? Like, hopefully he still has family there that would be able to take him in, but if not, then where is he supposed to go? Like, if all of his family have moved over here. Like, it's not right. Anyway, let's get back to this. Okay, so I want to go over some of the Supreme Court stuff that I wanted to talk about, and then we'll just get into some Christmas mixed messaging from people that I saw online that it's like, okay, this is a very complicated time of year, but let's go here. So they worked so hard last night to deliver your presents. Does anybody know who that is? Anybody in the sandbox? Do you know who that is? Who, like, if you're not Canadian, do you know who that is? Who you're seeing there, those 9 people. Do you know who they are? And I'll give you a hint. They are not Santa Claus helpers. Despite how all very white they are and wearing the red and white robes. Does anybody know? Even though I was just talking about it. I don't know if it's delay or nobody is answering, but yeah, that's the Supreme Court judges of Canada. This is what the Canadian Supreme Court looks like. Right there, from their official Twitter account. We are pleased to present the official photo of the 9 current judges of the Supreme Court of Canada. Yeah. But the reason why I was thinking about the Supreme Court of Canada, and then this tweet came up and it just reminded me, because in a stream last week, I went over this article here. Right-wing trolls are freaking out after learning they can get sued for calling people groomers on the internet. New court decision reinforces that there is no public interest in speech that exposes vulnerable groups to hate. And in that stream, I went over some of the things about in Canada, we do not have free speech, and we do have hate speech laws. And how targeting, so some guy was targeting a drag performer, calling them a groomer, basically no reason, online, on public, which then caused people to target this person with hate and stuff like that. And there is no public interest in just calling somebody a groomer, and that it's hate speech. It's meant to target people and hurt people. And so when this was going to the court, the guy who's being charged with it put a slap suit on it saying, you can't do this to me type thing. And then that was denied. So this can go ahead, and it's going to go to the Supreme Court, where this guy can be sued potentially for over $100,000. But in this article was another article that it was referencing. And somebody, a viewer of mine, sent me an email about it because they live in the area that this is an issue, and reminded me that I was going to look at it. So this decision was from the Ontario Supreme Court. But there was another recent decision that also falls in line with it, involving an anti-LGBTQ plus school board trustee, Barry Neufeld. And this is the article related to that. And it's from a while ago. But this man is probably the worst school trustee in British Columbia. Barry Neufeld promotes junk science worries about gay rainbow families and shares anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. And to think, this was even before COVID happened, and we still had people like that. If you ever needed a good reason to look into who the candidate for your local school boards are, look no further than Barry. He is a 3-term school district trustee in Chilliwack, BC, who currently is running for re-election despite strong opposition from Chilliwack parents who say he doesn't represent the values of their community. So just horrible, horrible person. And so here we have, in relation to that, Supreme Court of Canada dismisses defamation suit filed by former Chilliwack, BC school board trustee. So Barry sued former Teachers Union president Glenn Hansman, who said trustees' comments were hateful. So basically, Barry was saying hateful things.
Ding dong,
Oops.
ding dong.
Ignored that ringtone. I really should remember to put that on silent before I do this. So basically, Barry had said some hateful things, and when he was called out on it, he says, "How dare you call me what I am?" and tried to sue them for defamation for calling him what he was. And the Supreme Court said, "Nuh-uh, no, you are saying those hateful things. It's wrong." So the Supreme Court of Canada, SCC, has sided with Lower BC Court in dismissing a defamation suit brought in by 2018 by then Chilliwack School Board trustee against a former teachers union leader who described comments made by the trustee as bigoted, transphobic, and hateful. The ruling ends legal recourse for Barry, who long attracted controversy over his views of how sexual orientation and gender identity is taught in schools during his time as a trustee for School District 33. The case also provides legal context over how courts must weigh public interest over continuous debates such as those involving SOGI 123, a resource to teach students about sexual orientation and gender identity, implemented in BC in 2016 against the chilling effect of people being sued for speaking their minds. Glenn Hansman, a teacher and former president of the British Columbia Teachers Federation, publicly denounced Barry's views, which began with a Facebook post where Barry said he supported traditional family values and that allowing children to choose or change gender is nothing short of child abuse. So there's been a lot in the news now recently about trans children in school and what's being taught at school and all this sort of stuff. It's not a new battle. This was 5 years ago. This type of thing was still happening 5 years ago. It's just gotten worse. But cases like this have been happening for forever. Reaction not disproportionate. Hansman accused Barry of undermining safety and inclusivity for transgender and other LGBTQ students in school. His words were not disproportionate or gratuitous response to Barry's statements, and there's a substantial public interest. So that's the thing here. When it comes to things like hate speech and what qualifies for it, it goes down to, is there a public interest in what's being said? So here they're saying there is a substantial public interest in protecting his counter speech, wrote the justice. Whereas with the other case where he was doing the slap suit, They said that there is no public interest in accusing people of being groomers and pedophiles without any basis, like just for the fact that they're a drag performer. There's no public interest in then accusing them of being a groomer. The ruling said Hansman spoke out to oppose Barry's comments, which he and others perceived to be discriminatory and harmful towards transgender and other LGBTQ youth, groups especially vulnerable to expression that reduces their worth and dignity in the eyes of society and questions their very identity. Not only does protecting Mr. Hansman's expression preserve free debate on matters of public interest, it also promotes equality, another fundamental democratic value. So think of all those free speech warriors out there who are like, I have a right to say all this hateful stuff. But then as soon as they're called out on it, they're like, how dare you? They should be canceled. You're not allowed to say that. I'm allowed to say whatever I want, but you're not allowed to push back. That's basically what this case was. That Barry felt like he could say whatever he wanted, but that nobody was allowed to call him out on his shit. And as I was saying, when I was going over the other case, in Canada, we have a Supreme Court that, like the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, is very new. It's not that old. And our courts tend to be more flexible, more adaptive when it comes to growing with the times. It's not like the United States where they're going back to things in their constitution from hundreds of years ago and saying, well, it said this like 200 years ago, so it should apply the exact same right now. Like in Canada, that doesn't happen. And so a lot of our court cases actually rule in ways that support equality, support, protection of vulnerable groups and including vulnerable groups and things of that sort. And a lot of the cases I've seen anyway actually have rulings that I feel are good, a good move. I'm not as worried here about court rulings taking away my rights. If it's something that's protected in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, I'm not worried about it. Like when it comes to things like the right to choose what happens to my body with reproductive rights and stuff, there are ways around it that the provinces are doing, but my right, according to the federal government, will always be there. There are just other ways that they circumvent that if they can. But a lot of people probably know nothing about what the Canada Supreme Court is or how our judicial system is actually arranged. Like we hear it all the time about the United States, but we don't know much about Canada, especially even those of us who are Canadian, we don't know. And so I thought I'd just quickly go over some of the nuts and bolts of it. And I've linked to these websites in the description box. I actually remembered to do it ahead of time, so you can go down and see more information if you want to read the very dry webpage of the Government of Canada. The judicial structure, how the courts are organized. The federal and provincial and territorial governments are all responsible for the judicial system in Canada. Only the federal government can appoint and pay judges for the superior or upper level courts in the provinces. Parliament can also establish General Court of Appeal and other courts. It has created the Supreme Court of Canada, the Federal Court, and the Federal Court of Appeal, as well as the Tax Court. Parliament also has exclusive authority over the procedure in courts that try criminal cases. Federal authority for criminal law and procedure ensures fair and consistent treatment of criminal behavior across the country. So in other words, criminal law is the same no matter where you are in Canada. It's civil law that is more down to the provinces and bylaws down to the municipalities. The provinces administer justice in their jurisdiction. This includes organizing and maintaining civil and criminal provincial courts and civil procedures in those courts. And so outline of Canada's court system. Will this get big if I click on it? No. Okay, let's just make it big this way. So here you have your provincial and territorial administrative tribunals. We have a military court, provincial territorial courts, provincial territorial superior courts. And then if it's the military, you have the court martial appeal court. And then you have after the superior courts, you have the appeal court. And then if you're still going, it's then the Supreme Court of Canada. And then you have federal administrative tribunals, federal court, tax court of Canada, federal court of appeal, and then the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is the final say. So you go to court for whatever, you appeal it, and then, so it's very similar to what happens in the States, but a lot of us don't really know how it happens here in Canada. Let's scrunch this down a little bit. What do the federal courts do? Provincial and territorial level courts. So if you want to know all of this, you can go here and it'll kind of go over it. But some of the overviews is the federal courts. It hears appeals from decisions of the appeal courts in all provinces and territories, as well from the Federal Court of Appeal. Supreme Court judgments are final. It decides important questions about the Constitution and controversial or complicated areas of private and public law. The government can also ask the Supreme Court for its opinion on important legal questions. Provincial and territorial court level courts. The court system is roughly the same across Canada, except for Nunavut. Each province has 3 levels: provincial and territorial or lower courts, superior courts, and appeals courts. The Nunavut Court of Justice have a single level trial court. The superior courts at the provincial levels. The trial level courts hear civil and criminal cases. They may be called the Supreme Court or the Court of Queen's Bench or the Superior Court of Justice. The appeal level court and the court appeal, blah, 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 court. So this is how it kind of works here. It's also the Wikipedia page about the Supreme Court of Canada. If you want to get more information, again, linked it below. So it's the highest court in the judicial system of Canada. It comprises 9 justices whose decisions are ultimate application of Canadian law and grants permission to between 40 and 75 litigants each year to appeal decisions rendered by provincial, territorial, and federal appellate courts. The Supreme Court is bijural, hearing across cases from 2 major legal traditions, common law and civil law, and bilingual hearings cases, both official languages of Canada, English and French. The effects of any judicial decision on the common law, on the interpretation of status, or any other application of law can, in effect, be nullified by legislation unless a particular decision of the court question involves application of the Canadian Constitution, in which case the decision, in most cases, is completely binding on the legislative branch. This is especially true of decisions which touch upon the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which cannot be altered by the legislative branch unless the decision is overridden pursuant to Section 33, the Notwithstanding Clause. Notwithstanding Clause is something I need to cover at some point. It's basically when you have the province trying to put a law passed that is unconstitutional, and it's proven to be unconstitutional, but they say, we don't care, we want to do it anyway. We want to violate human rights anyway here in Canada. And here's the nice thing about, one of the nice things about the Canadian court system, and why I'm not as worried about our courts as you Americans need to be worried about your courts, is who gets appointed, who can become a judge. Because in the States, really, anyone, it can be pretty much anyone. But here in Canada, we have actual qualifiers. Let's see, well, I'll have that, no, I'll have to scooch that down one, down 2. So about the judges. The Supreme Court of Canada consists of 9 judges, including a Chief of Justice to be called the Chief Justice of Canada. All judges are appointed by the Governor and Council and must have been either a judge of a superior court or a member of at least 10 years standing of bar of a province or territory. The Chief Justice is sworn as a member of the Privy Council of Canada before taking the oath of office as Chief Justice. So they need to be a judge for at least 10 years before they can even become a Superior Court Justice. You know, they have to have experience in their field and stuff. Not like some of the American superior judges right now that... What? Did the most recent woman who got in, has she even taken a case to court before that? I can't remember. Or was it like 1 or 2 or something like that? Something ridiculous. Like, you actually have to be, for 10 years, a judge in the Superior Court, or a member of at least the last 10 years standing of the bar of a province. So in the bar of a province or territory. So you need actual job experience. The judges must devote themselves exclusively to their judicial duties. No judge may hold any other remunerative office or engage in any business enterprise. So they got one job. One job. A judge holds office during good behavior until he or she retires or attains the age of 75 years, but is removable for incapacity or misconduct in office before that time by the Governor General on address of the Senate and House of Commons. So if somebody does things that is not approved of, they can be easily recalled. Well, not easily. I can't recall off the top of my head if it's ever really happened. But here we have an age where they have to step down, and that is 75. Just think of the headaches that would have been solved in the United States if this had been the case there. And even then, that's a pretty high age. The Chief Justice presides over all sittings of the court at which he or she is present. The Chief Justice oversees the work of the court by designating the panel of judges who are to hear the cases and motions brought before it. Just seeing more of the letters. Yeah, so that is some of that. And in order to become a judge, David Dole once did a really good video breaking down how the application process goes on and stuff. But, you know, to apply, you have to fill out all this paperwork. You have to go through all these hoops. And it's done by a nonpartisan board to get all the applications through, to make sure that, you know, there's somebody that will represent the Constitution and all that sort of stuff. And that's a nonpartisan process. And then whoever the prime minister is in charge, they'll be given like here are the applicants that are the top applicants. You get to choose from that if a position opens up, and then they choose from whatever is available at that time. They don't just get to randomly pick somebody because they believe in they want, you know, to remove people's right to choose for themselves or something of that sort. They don't just get randomly pick somebody. It's an actual process that takes a lot of time. You have to put a lot of work into it, and only the most qualified people actually get through. So that's just some little tidbits of the Canadian judicial system that I think should be interesting to everyone, especially if you're Canadian. You should have already known that there are 9 justices. I can speak well. And let's check the sandbox. Shamigli, Fox News should be banned in Canada. Yes, people heard my ringtones. At first, I was just going to have it for my actual doorbell because, you know, how there's the panel. And instead of the buzzer these days, it just rings to your phone that it's the doorbell. So I was literally just going to have it for my doorbell. But then I'm like, it's such a cute little notification, and like almost nobody ever rings up to my apartment, so I would never hear it. And so now I just made it like the primary notification, and it's just fun. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Autumn leaves. Public interest is the key. For example, it is in the public interest to know about Matt Gates. Yes. Oh, bye to somebody who's already left and probably won't hear me saying that. Monope. Welcome, Christy Z. And everyone else who has since hopped into the sandbox. That's the new name for the chat over here. I think it's on this side. The sandbox. Yeah, we can call it the sandbox. I think I like that name. Okay. Let's see what is next on my docket. Oh my God, have I already been at this for 2 hours? Damn it! I talk too much. I was hoping to go through some of this stuff a lot faster. So next is the Christmas mixed messages. So this time of year is very stressful for a lot of people, for a lot of different reasons. And I don't understand human behavior so much. So there were a couple things that kind of caught my eye that I'm just like, how do people do this? Like it is just, there's so much meaning and significance behind Christmas. Or it's like even with different weddings and other things like that, there are people who are just cruel for the sake of cruel. Yeah, I'll show you what I mean. So from Ask Aubrey on Twitter, I follow her because my mind is blown with a lot of the stuff that I see on there. And so this is from a post saying, my husband got me nothing for Christmas. Well, it's exactly that. I got him the stuff he wanted and needed and bought his best friend some stuff. Got his aunt a minky blanket, which she loves and cried over. I'm happy to give. It's the best part of Christmas to me. But as I sit here, he's given me nothing, nor has he said anything about it. I'm realizing that he's literally got me nothing for Christmas. Wow. To be that much of an afterthought from your partner? Like there was one that I read on Christmas Day too, that just, again, it blew my mind that anyone thought this would be okay, where this woman's husband, and they have a toddler who's just old enough now to start realizing what Christmas is, and she slept in like a half hour later, but then the husband and the toddler were up, so they went and opened up all the gifts before she was awake, because the father wanted bonding time with the child. And so she didn't get to see the joy on the child's face, even when opening up the gifts that she gave him and stuff. And I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, it's one thing if you have that in your relationship. Like for Christmas, if I were to have a partner, if I were to ever have a partner over Christmas, if they got me something or not, it's a little, I don't care so much. But that would more be in the relationship, because like chances are I wouldn't be getting them anything right now, except for maybe like a little token gift type thing, because I don't have the money. But you know, I don't want things for the sake of just being given things. Like if it's something that can help me out, something that they know that I would truly appreciate, then that's great. But it doesn't have to be done just on Christmas. It could be whenever that opportunity arises. I used to like Christmas a lot more when I had the money to actually buy people gifts. That's when I really loved Christmas. Because I loved going Christmas gift shopping and stuff, and I always had so much pride that I was able to get it all done by the first week of December, because I would keep my eye open for things all throughout the year. And then when I saw that thing that I knew would just be perfect for that person, I'd pick it up. But if you don't have that relationship with somebody where you know this type of thing is okay, and then on Christmas, there's no mention of it, no nothing. You're watching everyone else open up gifts, seeing the surprise, the happy on them, and then realize the person who's supposed to be there with you, the love and everything, got you nothing? Come on. How is that okay? Oh. And then there's this, that to me is just flat out child abuse. So somebody bragging, keep in mind somebody bragging that they did this. Guys, my niece has been so naughty leading up to Christmas. Pre the present opening, the child was too stunned to speak.
What is it? Oh
What is it, Anaya?
What is it?
What is it?
Wow.
It's all the take out.
Anaya? I think the worst has happened.
I think you got a break.
Santa brought you rocks.
That means you're on the naughty list.
You people are so mad. What's going on?
Okay, so this is where if I were to have a little bug in that little child's ear, I would say, okay, now what you do is you take that brick, you raise it above your head, and then you just let it drop down on that table. How completely cruel is that to do to a child? Because all the time, everything is so hyped up about Christmas, 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 and the gifts, and this and that, and the other thing. And no, we're going to shame you and give you a brick for Christmas because you were naughty at some point. Like, it's just... the devastation she must be feeling, the shame she must be feeling. Like, to me, this is child abuse. This is emotional manipulation, emotional abuse. Like, this will scar her. You know, this will be with her for the rest of her life. Like, even though looking at her, she's very young, this is something she will remember forever. It is just disgusting that adults think this is okay. Basically, what has happened, it seems like, is that a lot of people have taken their social media personalities into real life. You know, like, oh, this would be a funny way, like, if you could tweet this to somebody like this type of gag or this. That's funny. You can shame people like that. It's funny. It's funny. But online. But then they start doing it in real life to people they're supposed to love, to children, treating them like some sort of social media, you know, like this is social media mentality playing out in real life. Yes, I have a kitty on my lap. I am so disgusted by people who are supposed to be adults doing something like this to a child. But like, I hope there's somebody else in her life that can help her through this. But I wanted to, after those two disgusting things, I wanted to do something that is the polar opposite and super sweet. So I'm a very odd adult. I don't like babies. Yeah, I don't care about them at all. I have no interest in them. I'm one of those rare people that I have had others around me start pointing out to me the stroller that I just walked by because they think I somehow missed seeing the little baby in there to oogle over. And it's like, no, I saw the stroller. I kind of figured what was in it, and I'm walking by because I have zero interest in the baby. And it has caused some rifts with me and my friends that I have zero interest in their babies. I've never been interested. I don't find them cute. It's just a lack of emotion is the easiest way to say it. Just a complete lack of emotion. I hope they have a great family, a great life, and that they grow up and be great people. I wish that, but when it comes to actually seeing them and being around them, complete lack of emotion. I can count on one hand with most of my fingers down how many times I've actually held a baby. Yeah. And Both of those times was not my choice. That said, I found this really cute.
Oh, oh. Oh, oh.
So that is Francesca's new addition to her family. And I just, okay, yeah, that's cute. Like kissing the Santa and the Santa fainting from the kiss. It's like, okay, okay. I'll acknowledge the cuteness of this one.
Oh, oh.
Is there even sound on this?
Oh, oh.
A little bit. Yeah. But how about more mixed messages for Christmas? I haven't actually listened to this yet. Let's see. So Ryan Grimm quote tweeted in Netanyahu's Christmas message, he said to his allies, "We shall win in this war and secure our values." Where have I heard that type of language before? Anyway, what kind of values would be secured by bombing disease-ravaged population into oblivion? Who could hear this message at this moment and think, yes, those are my values, thank you?
Merry Christmas.
Oh, and of course it's in English. So there we go. Abernathy, do not look at the cord like you're about to eat it. I see the way you're looking at it. So let's see what Netanyahu has to say.
To our Christian friends around the world, Merry Christmas. Christmas is supposed to be a time of goodwill to all men and peace on earth. Well, we don't have peace on earth, not on our part anyway, and we certainly don't
And whose fault is that?
see goodwill to all men. We're facing monsters. Monsters who murdered children in front of their parents and parents in front of their children.
Who's the monster? Murdering children in front of their families? In the hospitals? Who's doing that? Huh?
Who raped and beheaded women, who burnt babies alive, who took babies hostages. This is a battle.
You know what happens to people when they're bombed, right?
Not only of Israel against these barbarians, it's a battle of civilization against barbarism. And I know in this that we have your support.
No. No, you don't. No.
I want to thank you for your support. I want to thank you for your prayers. And I want to assure you that as we stand together, we will also prevail. We shall win this war and secure our common values and our common future. Thank you. To our Christian...
Well, that is a big go to hell message. Going back to you. Wow. So what about those Christians that you killed? That the IDF shot outside the church in the Gaza Strip? Or all the churches that they bombed? The Christian churches that they've bombed and destroyed? The fact that Bethlehem had to cancel Christmas? Are those the friends you're talking about? The friends that, that share your values? Do you really think that people who follow the teachings of Christ would look at what you're doing right now and think, yeah, those are my values? Really? And it's like, how about you just make the message about Christmas and leave out the horror that you're doing? Even just that, just wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, bye. Why does it have to be anything more than that? It's disgusting. But did you know we have a prime minister who also says things? From the Serfs, quote tweeted Justin Trudeau's message, "Death and apartheid rained down on the areas where Jesus was born thanks to Canada's military and financial support." Yes, and I haven't watched this one yet either. And Justin Trudeau is very good at performative politics. So let's see how good he is at this. So in the tweet, he says, Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope your holidays are filled with good cheer and great company. However, you're celebrating, my family and I are sending you our warmest wishes.
Christmas, Canada. 'Tis the season to gather with friends and family, to share moments and meals with loved ones, and to give thanks for the blessings in our lives. For Christians, it's also a time to celebrate the birth of Christ and the values he embodied.
Where was he born? Where was Christ born? I don't know. It's on the tip of my tongue. Somewhere. Did that place celebrate it?
Values like compassion, kindness, and hope. And while the story of Christ is being celebrated by Christians tonight, these values are universal.
Celebrated except everywhere where he was born.
The holiday season is an opportunity for us all to bring comfort, joy, and light to those who need it most. So let's love our neighbors as we love ourselves and find strength in our differences. Let's give back and extend a helping hand to those who've fallen on hard times, and let's share the warmth of the season.
I know some people who have fallen on hard times and could use our help. A whole couple million of them, actually. And that's just the people in the Gaza Strip, let alone all the people you've abandoned in this country.
Season with those who are spending the holidays alone this year. That's not just the true spirit of Christmas, it's also the true spirit of Canada. My friends,
the true spirit of Canada was actually built on genocide and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I guess they do share that in common with Israel.
Whether you're continuing family traditions passed on from one generation to the next or embarking on new ones, whether you're hosting a big family gathering or celebrating with a few close friends, I hope your holidays are filled with good cheer, great company, and hope for the year ahead. And to our brave service women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces, to the first responders who work round the clock to keep us safe, and to the volunteers who give up their time to make someone else's Christmas merry and bright, thank you. You embody the eternal message and timeless truth that it is more blessed to give than to receive.
How about we give some aid to people in Gaza? Just saying. Let's show that value there.
Once again, from my family to yours, Merry Christmas. Let's carry the spirit of the holidays into the new year, and let's find new ways to make our communities, our country, and our world a brighter place for everyone.
So yeah, about that. Again, very easy way to make that a better place.
Everyone in 2024.
Yeah. What a performative asshole. So those are from some political leaders there, but then there's always things like, I can understand politicizing things, I can understand, but it's like, can people have it done with some good taste or some poignant messaging? It's kind of like comedians who think they're funny by just saying hateful things. Well, there's a lot of politicians who think they're doing a point or making a point by just doing hateful things. So from Derek Evans, Merry Christmas. And on his Christmas tree, he has a whole bunch of politicians being hung by Trump. That is so festive to put on your Christmas tree. Yeah, that's what you want on the Christmas tree. It's just a scene of death. Yeah, the one guy saying, I'm not Christian, but so can someone tell me if Jesus was a big murdered Democrats guy? Like, what are you, how hate-filled are you that you would put this on your Christmas tree? I don't understand how people think this is a good thing to do, let alone tweet out to the universe. This is, yeah. But again, let's go to the polar opposite. Letter hack. And his wonderful drawing he sent out this year. I think he's, today is Wednesday. Yeah, he should be going live tonight at some point, probably right now. So after this stream is done, everyone be sure to go check out the letter hack. That's his Christmas drawing, just the absolute adorablest of the Majority Report crew. I don't know, maybe someday I'll be one of those drawings. I'm not saying, it would be nice if maybe next year I got a little bit more, a little bit more. It'd be nice. Yes, I want to start a Majority Report North version. The Canadian version of the Majority Report. That would be amazing. Oh, right. I wanted to cover this, but we're already really wrapping up time. I'll leave that for the next one. For the next live stream on Friday. And what else did I have here? Yeah, okay, so I can cover that stuff on Friday. So, been at this for like 2.5 hours now. How's everyone doing in the sandbox? How are you guys liking that? Are you guys liking that, being called the sandbox? Yes, Netanyahu is a monster and he started this war. It is just... It's like it's two different things. There was the attack that Hamas did, which is bad and horrible, but at this point, what Israel is doing has nothing to do with that anymore. It's two separate events. It's two very different things, and the attention that should have been given to what happened on October 7th has all been lost because of the horror that's been happening ever since. Again, I don't know how all these Zionists can look at what's happening in Gaza and be like, this is good. We're going to get beachfront property soon. Like, the live shattered everything. It's just... Okay, let's see the sandbox. Scroll back up to people saying that that little child should just use that brick to smash that table. Yeah, I would fully support that. I can't believe people would be that cruel to a child. Zero PE, I couldn't imagine being in a relationship with someone and they got me something and I got nothing. She should divorce that clown ASAP. Yeah, I don't get it either, because like when I have money, one of the things that I love doing around Christmas is buying other people gifts and stuff. And to me, it is a way of showing a certain level of affection, but then it's also, it's not just getting them a gift. It's getting them one I know they'll appreciate, like a reflection of, I understand who you are, I understand and I appreciate you, and this is my way of showing it and stuff. Like, it's not just about the material thing. It's about, the meaning and the significance behind it. And the only time I wouldn't do that for a significant other is when I don't have money. And then even then on Christmas, it's not like it has to be like, here's a bunch of gifts and all that sort of stuff. Because like I said, it can be like throughout the year and stuff. But on Christmas Day, definitely there'd be something there for them to open. And it would depend on the relationship, because if I got into a relationship with somebody who did, like Christmas was the day for gifts and things of that sort, then I would make that effort. That the gifts that maybe I would have given throughout the year, I hold off on and just that one day. But for any of this to matter, I'll actually need to be in a relationship over Christmas for me to actually know what this would be like. Was I just thinking? Oh, barely. I think I was barely in one relationship over Christmas. Oh, no, my girlfriend. Okay. I was in a relationship with her over Christmas. So like 1.5 Christmases I was with somebody. Oh, and something I was mentioning in my Christmas stream for people who weren't there for that and would be interested in doing this type of thing, keep it in mind for next year. So whenever I do have the extra money, the thing that I love to do is buy the gifts for like the Salvation Army and stuff like that. The organizations that then go and give those gifts to families who can't afford to get gifts for their children. An age group that is often overlooked is teenagers. Usually there's nothing in those bins for teenagers. An excellent gift, board games. Things like Apples to Apples or Code Names or Taboo. Something that they can then take with them to friends' houses and have fun. And, they're geared more towards teenagers, and it will lead to potentially them getting really good memories of friendship down the line. So board games, excellent thing for teenagers. And I used to buy a couple for those organizations when I have the money. Soul Life, I wonder what she did wrong. Nothing. She was probably just being a child. But nothing would justify that. Because they're also, like, when you do that type of thing, giving a child a brick like that to be like, ha ha ha, shame on you. You have to then, they're expecting her to have adult reasoning, that she knows what this is for, that she understands what it's for, that she can get it. But she doesn't have adult reasoning. She is a child. Lynn, and that they filmed it and put it on the fucking internet. Yeah. No, that's when she goes to when she goes to get herself emancipated. She can show that in the court. Because that is just, yeah. Nadia Yvette Chambers, it's from the 14 words. Yep. Things about secure the future and stuff like that. It's so disgusting that the leader of Israel would be echoing those words while committing a genocide. I think, wow. Let's see. I hate his smug face. I just know you're talking about Justin Trudeau with that. It doesn't matter. You could have a lineup of 100 different people and have Justin Trudeau in there, and then you say, I hate his smug face. And it's like, yeah, you're talking about him. Let's see. Soul Life. I like Sandbox. I called Surfs the bread. Yeah. bread box because, you know, bread tube, and because on Twitch he calls his chat points breads. Yeah, I think I might keep it with Sandbox. Okay, so I think that should be it. I don't want to babble on too much longer. I believe the Letters Hack show has already started. Don't want to overlap too much. You know, gotta be communist with the time and the audience and share it. If you can, I'm still paying off Frodo's vet bills. And I still have the vet bills from taking them all into the not-for-profit vet. That I will cover myself. I'm not... If you want to give help for that, I would appreciate it. But I'm still trying to pay off Frodo's vet bills from his emergency. Luckily, all 3 of my babies are doing fine right now. And that's the best Christmas gift I could ever get right now. So if you can help out, I have a PayPal link in the description box below as well. If you're Canadian, you can send an e-transfer to SandeeLovas@gmail.com. I'm still about $600 off from paying off Frodo's vet bills. Every little bit helps. Let's see. So yeah, I got my art. Go check it out. Congratulations to Adam Taylor. He received a portrait at no cost to him. He was the only person to enter in the draw, so, you know, not shocked when I pulled his name. And that's to honor the person who donated over $500 to Frodo's vet bill. So I will be working on that in January, but I would also like to sell portraits and prints and stuff. I'd like to have more customers than my mom, who is my only customer at this point. You can find me on social medias here, mainly just this one, really. I will eventually check these ones, but really I'm on this one 24/7 still. The hostile fart sauna doesn't stink enough yet for me to leave. If you can support my content, you have Left of the Box here, Patreon, linked below. And if you want to contact me about the show, leftofthebox@gmail.com. I have to try to remember to check it a little bit more often. Friday, regular show at 6 o'clock, covering new stuff and whatnot. And then Sunday, I'll have a New Year's Eve show starting at 4 o'clock. And we can just talk about, you know, other stuff and hopes for the future following year and whatnot. Oh, thank you, Soul Life, for the $5. Really appreciate it. Also, I'm thrilled that my video about Rebel HQ now has over 10,000 views. I find it very interesting because it seems to be a very steady, like every day there still seems to be views on it and views on it. It hasn't, like, I figured after the first day I'd get maybe just a couple hundred more views on it, but it's been steadily increasing, which I like. And I'm also over 6,000 subscribers, which is great. Yeah. So thank you everyone for coming out. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the wonderful mods that I have here. Hopefully there's not too much trouble in the sandbox. Sandbox? And yeah. Just checking. Great. And so to the person at the beginning of the stream who thought, wow, Tulip's cry really made your cat go crazy, stay tuned for like 30 more seconds. Let's do this. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.